Join us for the Porsche Cayenne Turbo S e-hybrid. Let's go! In the front you can see this typical round Porsche design that really reminds us of the 911. Headlamps come with LED standard in this generation of the Cayenne, optional the matrix LED and this 4-dot design, very beautiful. Special about the coupe is that the roofline here is a little bit flatter and already the A-pillar is just a couple of centimeters flatter, so it gives this sportier look, and here also with a fixed ring. Then wheels, they come with 21-inch standard with the Turbo SE hybrid here. Those ones are the optional 22-inch wheels, pretty massive. And normally you get a normal brake, then there is this tungsten carbide special coated brake, optional. And then the third option, which again is standard now for the Turbo S, here, those carbon ceramic brakes. And you can also pick different colors here for the brake calipers. And I can tell you, well, they brake astonishingly well. The question is if you really need them for the road driving, probably not. But they have, they're very aggressive. I will tell you more about that later in the driving part. The rear is very interesting, especially with the coupe, of course, with this flatter window right there. Then there is this lip, and they moved the number plate to the lower area of the vehicle. But again, as I said, the Turbo SE hybrid will also be available with the normal SUV version, and both are more aggressive in the lower end. We have a diffuser right there. Then there is this performance exhaust. The normal Turbo S exhaust looks different over this, the option performance exhaust for even more sound. You can also activate the rear wing, this adaptive one, the secondary one from the inside. It's very interesting, and at higher speeds it automatically folds out and it will even fold up higher. I cannot do it here stationary, so when you're driving really fast there is a second level for this rear wing. So what about engines? There's no naturally aspirated engine for the Cayenne anymore. That was just in the previous generation. Now we get the base engine, a 3-liter V6 turbo petrol engine. There are no diesels anymore, they skipped that. Then for the Cayenne S, there's a 2.9-liter V6 with a little bit more horsepower. Then there is a 3-liter V6 PHEV. We tested that one earlier. We'll link also this episode. That's a very interesting ride. And it's the same technology here with the 14 kilowatt-hour battery for this Turbo SE hybrid. But the normal turbo, by the way, with a 4-liter V8 petrol engine, that one 550 horsepower, 3.9 seconds is the acceleration figure. And this one here, also the 4-liter V8, but then plus electric drive, and then gives a system output of about 680 horsepower, and 3.8 is the acceleration figures. The battery capacity is at 14 kilowatt hours, and the maximum AC charging, what we're doing at the moment here with the wallbox, is 7.2 kilowatts. So that will take about 2 hours to recharge completely from 0 to 100. And again, of course, when you recharge at home, because for a plug-in hybrid vehicle you might just use a normal household plug, and of course it takes way longer. But then again, it's not a problem when you, for example, just leave it overnight or so. It will also be full with the normal household plug. This is the car key, light and slim. And doors here, they also have, that's an option, soft close. Here we go. And the inside of the doors. Some carbon fiber inserts here in a sporty style and reasonable space at the inside of the doors. That's cool. Then there's a Cayenne Turbo S entry badge here, the lower part of the door. And here we also have the sports design package, which is also consisting of those special fabric seats. Finally, a non-animal solution, at least for the inside of the seats. There are still animal parts at the outside, but this is pretty cool also because it stays cooler in summer and also warmer in winter, so that's definitely way to go. Then you also have the Alcantara steering wheel. That's a pretty cool choice too. You have a good grip always and somehow cozy also. Well, in the coupe here, it's no problem, especially if you don't have the panoramic roof. 1m86 or 6'1" my height, so no problem in the front. Yeah, and in the rear it plays out a little bit differently, but that's very interesting. I'll soon show you. But here in the front, you have enough space, of course. This platform here that is shared by the Audi Q7, Q8, also the Volkswagen Touareg offers ample of space in the front. Whereas the Cayenne, of course, with its sporty cockpit layout, narrows it a little bit, but still you will have enough room. Interior overview, we know it basically from Cayenne with this horizontal stress and everything. The Porsche look looks wrapped tightly. Then the sports chrono package here included in this version, of course, with the acid green arrow. So it's a very interesting hybrid design element, the same as for the V6. Big middle console, then those panic handles right there. And the temperature goes still manually, with nice clicking sound and metal knurling. Still a lot to control right here. I just always wonder that the hotkey for the GPS is placed right there, where it should be right there actually, because, you know, maybe the co-driver does something with the infotainment and, oh, I want to check the GPS. Then again, you also can put it right here in the instruments. Sumo deals to the instruments overall, but you know, it's always good to be able to put the GPS on that side too. So that's maybe the reason they put the hotkey right there. I don't know. As for the instruments, they keep the big analog meter right in the middle, then with those acid green accentuations as for the arrow. And right and left are 7-inch screens, so you can control them, for example, here on the left side for some information on the assistance systems, for example. Oh, 35.5 degrees in the shadows in Germany. That's pretty rare. And then on the right side, you can have, for example, the big GPS view. It will automatically pop up if you have set a destination and you approach the next intersection. Or you can also have a G-force meter and so on, and can play around with that a little bit. It's pretty easy to change the driving modes while driving. The pure electric mode, hybrid auto mode, sports and sports plus. In those two here, the combustion engines will always run. And then pressing it will give you a short sport response boost. The rear passenger compartment is very interesting because with the coupe it's a little bit different. I'll soon show that to you. First of all, take a look at that one here. Also the nice fabric seats with this retro style for the rear. Then you can get this single seat setup, or alternatively you can get a bench that goes all the way through, as you know from the normal Cayenne SUV. So that's definitely up to you. Which one do you pick? One big difference is that this bench cannot be slid forward or backward here with the coupe. With the SUV you can slide forward or backward about 16 centimeters. Again, not possible here because it would then, you know, maybe get confusing with the headroom at the end of the day. So you have this flatter roofline, yes, and you can also adjust the angle of the seat right there. That's pretty cool. And ultimately you can also flip them completely with this lever. Yeah, it does work headroom-wise here. There's still even some space above my head. Why? Because here in the coupe version you sit lower. So you lose a couple of centimeters with the roof, but then you gain a little couple of centimeters because you sit a little bit lower. As for the trunk, you open it right here or also with the key. And then first of all, with the coupe you lose, of course, some height right there if you compare it to the SUV. Take some measurements right there, because the length of the trunk is about 1 meter and it's about 1 meter, a little bit more in width. And the height right here at the lowest part is just about 35 centimeters. Then below this cover is almost 50 centimeters, a little bit less than 50 centimeters. So that's of course still okay. And then when you have the hybrid, both the V6 and here the V8 hybrid, one thing is that you lose some more height right there. It would be a small step otherwise. But here then, there's the Bose sound system, and behind that, what we cannot see, but there they put the battery. So, well, the advantage is that you have an even loading field. So you can also take that one as an advantage if you like. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the new top of the trim or top of the line Cayenne, the PHEV with the V8 Turbo S E hybrid. Yeah, pretty complicated the name. And well, we hear maybe the vents, because it's really hot outside today. But the cool thing is you can start all silently. That's always the great thing about electric vehicles, even with the PHEVs. And we also have those special gauges. At the moment we have the battery about half depleted and still have about 15 kilometers left to go. And that proves again my point. With the V6 I did the test, ended up with about 35 kilometers pure electric range, and here the weight is of course a little bit higher. Here it will be about 30 kilometers effective real electric range. And you can have different driving modes. So here at the moment in the e-power mode, I'm driving pure electric. You can see the RPM meter in the middle is just on standstill, is on 0 with those acid green accentuations. And it needs somehow fitting to the Cayenne because it's a really comfortable car, considering it's a sports SUV. And this silent ride you have is something very special. You feel a little bit more light with that. And it's fun, especially when you're driving around neighborhoods and so on. You can really be silent, don't annoy anyone with the Turbo S sound. So when you're going out to the countryside, you can maybe then again really hammer it. We will soon do that. First, I want to tell you something about here the electric driving experience, because that is really belonging to this PHEV version. So probably I would use the e-power, either when doing a startup in the morning in your neighborhood or so, or maybe just to say you recharge or so, and then you say, whatever, I just use the e-power as far as it goes, and then that's it. And then you can also have this maximum acceleration, and well, there's no one behind us, no one in front of us now. Let's see, what about that? Well, we did reach 100 kilometers before the speed limited. Wow. And I could reduce the speed again. That was amazing. Wow. I think Jonas's bottle here somehow flew around.
Tripod.
Well, the tripod, the tripod flew around because the acceleration was that harsh. Wow. And what I really felt, recently we did that here with the Cayenne Turbo without the electric boost. And this one here indeed felt different. So the acceleration is not too different, it's like 3.9 versus 3.8 seconds, so a little bit in favor here for this Turbo S. But then again, this additional weight, it has to stay somewhere. That's why the acceleration is not that much better than in a normal turbo right here. But it indeed feels different. It's a little bit more silent at first. And like this from the get-go, you feel a little bit of this electric boost. So you first have a feeling of, there's an electric something going, like more silent and more torque sets directly in. And then the whole combustion engine comes, or it's still already activated, yes, but you somehow feel a difference. With the normal turbo, when we did the launch control right there, that was a proper launch control, then you felt, this is the pure power from this combustion engine and the growling and so on. And here you directly feel the mix, and it's indeed very interesting, I can say. So here now, countryside road, and yeah, you always have this growling from the performance exhaust. At 100 kilometers an hour, the car still keeps so stable. The air suspension is set on a stiffer tone here in the Turbo S, and you feel that sometimes, especially when in sports mode, it's even stiffer. You get a good response from the road. So it is definitely one of the sportiest big SUVs out there, if not the sportiest. And now to our conclusion for today with the Porsche Cayenne Turbo SE Hybrid. Well, on paper, at first you think, such a big and heavy SUV, make it even heavier with this PHEV version than the top trim or top sportiest version as electrified one. Does that make any sense? And well, after driving it, I have to say, yes, it does somewhat. On the exterior, here the coupe today. Very interesting, we've seen it once before. You can check out the other review where we compare also coupe and SUV. But this one here is available both for the SUV and the coupe, the typical sporty Porsche look. On the interior, high build quality, and especially this cool interior with this design package here today, with those fabric seats, with the Alcantara steering wheel, with the Alcantara ceiling. Very beautifully done, and a good alternative to the so far overwhelming animal skin concept they had there in the Cayenne. But still, this car is very well usable, especially as the SUV. The coupe, of course, loses something of the trunk then in the very rear, but still, you can very well use it if you prefer this design scheme. Driving-wise, wow, this was just wow. Such a performant SUV, it has so much power. It's still decently comfortable, although 22-inch wheels, you don't have to go for the biggest one, always go, but they look pretty massive. But still, the air suspension gave us decent comfort, although it's a little bit stiffer than here in this setup right there. But then this handling, it's really like a sports car handling, although it's such a heavy SUV, then with even more weight with the battery, but still such a great handling. That was really astonishing. And I really love the concept that in the neighborhood you can, drive all silent, have this electric drive, can relax. It somehow fits also to this whole concept of this vehicle. And then again, maybe in countryside road, you can really let it fly. And wow, this is really a great performance sounds you had there. So you can go for a normal turbo if you like this classic approach. But here, this technology approach, I somehow like it. It was bringing a little bit more spice to the whole one. I already like the V6 hybrid. So if you ask me for the best price performance Cayenne, go for the V6 hybrid. This is the best price offering they have. However, here they also have this sport design package with the fabric seats. So I would like that too. Yeah, and coupe or SUV doesn't really matter. That's just personal preference. But here then with the top horsepower spec, you could have something of both worlds. And if you don't let it fly all the time, with this hybrid, you can actually also score some decent fuel consumption figures with the electric drive help and also with the recuperation. So what's your take on this one here? There's surely a lot to discuss here today. Please join us also next time and check out the other Cayenne episodes. We have so many different variants on the engines. Meanwhile, you can just pick the one you're interested most in. We will link those in the video description and also in the comments. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today and see you next time.